Tired of long waits and rushed care at the ER and urgent care clinic? Next time, stay home and let Dispatch Health bring the power of the hospital to you.
I call Dispatch Health. A care team of medical professionals actually come to your house.
They're the same caliber of people that you would see if you were at a hospital or an urgent care.
Dispatch Health can treat most non-life-threatening emergencies.
They can do the x-rays, they can do stitches,
urinary tract infections, blood test, urinalysis, ultrasound.
It's almost everything that they can do at the ER.
You never feel rushed. They're there for you and only you.
I felt like their only patient.
And it costs no more than a trip to urgent care because Dispatch Health is covered by most insurance, including Medicare. See if we serve your home at dispatchhealth.com.
Dispatch Health really went above and beyond.
It's wonderful to have care come to your home.
House calls are back, and they're better than ever. Learn more at dispatchhealth.com.
Hello, everyone. I'm Barry Williams, and you are
Christopher Knight.
And together we are
The Real Brady Bros.
And this podcast is going to explore an episode of The Brady Bunch, one that Christopher and I have talked about and thought might be fun to get into some of the minutiae, some of the details, some of the behind the scenes, and some of the great and lasting sayings and lines that came out for of all time for our episode. In fact, tell them when this came in, but this is later on in the show.
This was the fourth season. This was our 90th episode, actually the 18th episode of the fourth season, airing initially on February 9th, 1973. So we're in that mode. We're in the early 70s. We're coming out of the 60s, and we're trying today to use what we know kids are going through today and use the show as a prism reflecting on our growth, our societal growth or cultural growth or regression, whichever it may be, by looking at the Brady Bunch as a marker for where we were in
we will
1973.
take a look at what was appropriate then and may not be totally appropriate today. Some of these shows would have to be rewritten in order to be politically correct, let's say.
Well, shows today, too, would you argue, are written to be more controversial. And the Brady's was actually written to be more unifying as opposed to something that provides comedy through sharpness.
Yes, which ironically makes us controversial and even has disclaimers in certain areas about what you were about to see on this Brady Bunch episode may not be fit for family edification. And they go on, it's like crazy.
I can't imagine what might be in this episode that is controversial.
This takes playing ball in the house to a whole new level, this episode will.
Well, we could start there. I mean, that's what this episode is. We're talking about the subject was noses.
Boy, was it.
This is the famous episode where Marcia gets creamed with a football and ends up with a big ole broken nose.
Yeah, we'll get to that for sure. Now, I don't know if you knew this, but I am blamed by the general public at large, sometimes accosted 3 or 4 times a day for throwing the football that smacked Marcia in the nose.
They're confused. I take great pride in having thrown the football. Now, recognizing that by the third year, they started to write me, maybe by the second year, into the character. And clearly, if there was going to be one of her brothers that was to throw a football to break her nose, it would have been me.
And it was.
So I took great pride in the fact that they picked Peter to throw the football.
Yes.
But I have this recollection that I actually was used to throw the football. And I don't know, to be honest with you, if that is sort of a dream sequence I've had in my head and never happened.
Well, when we get to that part of the episode, I think I can help clear that up because I was there.
Can you?
Yep.
Well, you were there. Okay.
I was.
Because and it's going to be interesting because I'm not certain in thinking the way that I've thought of this episode and that moment behind the scenes and doing it all, that I haven't remembered correctly, that I might have made it all up in my mind over these last 50 years.
Well, let's start here then with fading in, because in our 4th season, our personalities were pretty much fleshed out. The writers, as you pointed out, were starting to write for not just our characters, but who we really were in real life and our interests outside of the show. And we had a chance to redo our credits, the boxes at the front, or the zooms as we think of them now. I remember this always was a big, big deal because we knew that the episode would be on and it'd be off, but the credits would last for years and years. We didn't know 50 years, but yeah, but we would always get ready. So there were changes in start with the girls and how the girls look.
Well, these credits, these tic-tac-toe boxes or these Zoom boxes, this opening credits and closing credits with us in the boxes looking all around, we did a number of times. And again, recollection being what it is, I need to watch episodes from every year to really be clear on this, and I haven't done that yet. But this is an opening video from the third season, because I believe our first one, they ran 2 years. Second one we did for the third season ran 2 years. And then we did one more and it ran only the fifth season, if I'm not mistaken, because this doesn't have Bob's curly hair.
Oh.
Bob's curly hair happened in the fourth year in Hawaii, and those were our first episodes. But these credits don't have that.
Right on. So this would be the second set of 3, and I think you have that accurately. So one big difference was Jan, suddenly.
Or Cindy, she doesn't have curls.
No curls.
Right, and that's...
her hair's combed out, isn't it?
Well, I mean, and that's interesting, because that means she only did the curls the first time through. Because if this is only the second time through, this is not even the third time through, and she's already lost the curls in the credits.
Okay, so I think she's in braids. She's in braids, right? And Jan, is wearing glasses now.
Eve is wearing glasses.
Right.
Florence doesn't have the final do, but she has the flip, the accentuated fall down the neck.
I got to tell you,
bob with the neck.
I was into the flip. I liked the flip. That was good for me.
It worked on her.
Yeah.
She did well. But it got shorter. It got more elegant in the fifth season.
Worked for me, too.
Yeah, well, yeah.
More important.
You did a lot of dreaming, too.
I did. I had a... And another... Okay, so...
But then our hair was all messed up. And I don't know. It looked like we were still in the breeze from Hawaii.
hair was the bane of my existence for 5 years.
You look like you just got up.
Oh, man.
Your hair.
I would do anything to try and get it to do something, and I couldn't. And the problem was I had curly hair, and I didn't want curly hair. I wanted straight hair. So the struggle was always to have straight hair, and it never worked. And it looked like, I think you said it best when you said that it looked like I was wearing a helmet.
Yeah, it was. It looked like you had like a hat on and took it off and didn't really care, and no one told you what you looked like. And makeup wasn't there.
You would think somebody would have come to my rescue on that, like Barry, on the hair deal.
Your mom wasn't around to comb your hair.
No, but Florence.
I say that only because the girls' moms were always on their hair.
Just while we're on that, I had tried a lot of different things. The blow drying, of course, straightening, mayonnaise. I thought would be helpful to give it, a more textured and more conditioned look. I remember coming into the set one day the day after I had given my hair the mayonnaise application for conditioning purposes, and Florence said, Barry, what happened to your hair? And I thought maybe she really liked it because it worked, and I was hoping for a real positive response. She said, well, it looks dirty.
Oily.
I'll say. I guess I got jumped in a vat of oil.
Okay. I could have used that. You never shared your hair secrets with me because my hair ended up getting so dry and bushy in this fourth season that
try
I too
mayonnaise.
Now I hear you. So.
I even ironed it one time. I literally, it was long enough that I could get it on the ironing table and put a cool iron on it. Well, I mean, warm, but I wasn't using the steam.
You can't put much of your hair on an ironing board no matter how long. I mean, unless it's like feet long, but really?
Well,
you put an iron next to your ear? And
I tried, yeah. Okay. I tried. Vanity, what
that
can
explains a lot.
Yeah, okay. Oh, another thing I really liked about this show was our favorite director, right? Jack Arnold had directed this, and that was always a treat because he has such a great sense of humor and could care less what was going on in front of the camera. Very relaxed set he ran.
My adult eyes looking back at his direction and his choices, I see that effort.
Yeah.
I see him he places a bike just in, even the wrong bike for you, fixing a bike. It doesn't look like yours at all. And it doesn't look like there's been any real thought. And especially the way that I throw the football. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
So.
I want to talk about superficiality here for just a minute because we men get, blamed for that quite a bit. But Marcia in this episode kind of alludes to a little bit of that herself. We open with coming out of school with Vicky, her best friend, played by Lisa Eilbacher. whom, by the way, I did have a crush on, and came out, and they're chatting about dates and how dreamy the quarterback of the football team is. Marcia is saying, well, let me just give you the quote. Vicky says, oh, yes, he's so rugged and handsome. And then Marcia says, well, there are other qualities. And Vicky says, like what? To which Marcia replies, I don't know. Give me time to think of one.
I think that actually I took from this episode, watching it with these new adult eyes, that she wasn't as vapid or as shallow as she at least initially comes across. She actually, in my mind, was acting out what her friends and her little clique would want her to do. And it was evidenced by the guilt that she's feeling, because she did play that well, that there was something in the back of her mind that didn't sit well with canceling the date. And it comes out at the end. And so I painted that together to be this reality that she probably liked Charley more for whatever reason. And,
Okay.
I know why that would have been, because Lloyd, if he had anything to do with suggesting anything in the writing, would have had her liking Charley more.
Many of our listeners haven't seen this episode in the last 4 days like we have. So we need to set up a little bit more of what's about to happen and who Doug Simpson is and what's going on. So Marcia has a date with Ernest Charley, and Doug Simpson is going to come along shortly thereafter. And he's the one who is rugged and handsome and basically
He's the football star.
He's a football star, and nothing else matters. And there's going to be a conflict with there. Now, while we're talking about the actors, Vicky was played by Lisa Eilbacher. I don't know if you know this or not. She actually was born in Saudi Arabia before she came to Beverly Hills, Saudi Arabia.
No idea.
And so she'd been very, very active as a kid. I wrote down some of the credits. She was on Wagon Train, that's 60s, Laredo, a show that I guest starred on, Gunsmoke, My Three Sons. Later, and our listeners may know her from An Officer and a Gentleman. She played a character by the name of Casey Seeger. She was the one who was trying to get over the wall while she was training, in military training. And Louis Gossett Jr., who was the drill instructor, was trying to help her get over the wall, but ultimately she did not get over. So that's who Lisa Eilbacher was, and a real cutie, real sweetheart.
I seem to recall that she was a big player in that age range at that time, because
Right.
Maureen knew her. Like I knew Buddy Foster, Jodie Foster's older brother, who was on every interview I ever went on, right? So we kind of become competitive friends, if you will. That this was somebody that she knew well from reading for the same roles as Lisa Eilbacher.
Buddy and I actually went to acting school together when we were just all starting out, and that was before Jodie was groomed for her career, who, by the way, that Jodie had our agent.
Right. Well, she was on the interviews. Mom didn't have anybody at home to take care of Jodie.
Right.
So whenever I was reading, and Buddy was there reading for the same role, Jodie was there as this little 6-year-old.
Right. Right.
It's like,
So in our little Brady world, Doug Simpson, played by Nicholas Hammond. Now, Nicholas Hammond was hot off of a very, very, very famous and classic movie, The Sound of Music. He played Frederick in The Sound of Music.
the oldest son, right?
Yes. And so he had quite a bit of experience, and we were very happy to have him on our show.
He also has the distinction of being the very first actor to play Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
Right. Not as a
on
cartoon,
television.
yet, like as a live action.
And then he got aced out of all the movies.
Apparently so.
Life is unfair. Life is unfair, and so is show business.
By the time they had the special effects to do those movies properly, he had outgrown the role.
So there we go. So now we have Marcia, who has a date on Saturday night with Charley, played by Stuart Getz. Then comes along Doug Simpson to invite her out on a date. Now a quandary begins. Marcia doesn't know what to do because she's already committed to Charley, but she's got a humana for Doug Simpson. So who does she turn to?
You, Greg.
The professional bike fixer.
Right.
For some unknown reason, I am always in the garage or on the driveway fixing my bike. That bike never worked, ever. Like every episode, I am fixing something on the bike.
I got to tell you, I looked at you fixing that bike and thinking he's fixing Jan's bike, Cindy's bike, maybe Bobby's bike. He's not fixing his own bike because Greg wouldn't own a bike like that.
Maybe that's it. Maybe I just fixed everybody's bike, and in this one, I just had to oil the chain.
What I didn't understand, though, is weren't you on the football team?
I was the photographer in one episode, and then I was I was on the football team in one episode, but I was not a quarterback or anything, and Mom was very worried about me. So enter Marcia onto the driveway, and there's Greg on his hands and knees, oiling a chain to fix, presumably, the bicycle. And she asked me for advice. Now, I'm really excited about this because while you were the one who got to break the vase for, playing ball in the house, and you're the one...
I didn't. Yeah, okay, I guess I did break the vase. We were playing ball in the house.
Yes, we were playing ball in the house. No, you were going up for the slam dunk in the trash can. And you missed the trash can, which is like almost impossible. And then it somehow went out the door, turned right, hit the wall, and turned left, and then went bounce, 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 turned right again, and then went out onto the upper landing of the staircase, and boom, boom, and then landed on the vase. That ball had a mind of its own.
The ball took a tragic turn.
Yes, it several of them. Several of them. And so that was you, and then it was you with the football routine. But I get, how do you break a date with someone? Well, I just say, something suddenly came up. And Marcia says, does that work? And I said, every time. So there you go. I get something suddenly came up, which has been used for all manner of innuendo since then.
Well, it's the way that Greg says it. It's not like he's hemming and hawing and trying to figure out what's the best advice to give my sister. He just comes right up with, this is what you do.
Top of mind.
You say, something came up. It's like, what would Barry Williams do?
Something suddenly came up.
What was his strategy?
That was it. Something suddenly came up. I could have written that line. I wish I had it.
So this is something where they wrote to your Barry.
But I did
Barry into the character.
I did get to say it. I did get to say it. So that was good. So that's what she uses. But what do? We end up going into the kitchen, we being the camera, goes into the kitchen where Mom is, what is she doing there? She's helping Alice with something, prepare a meal.
She's peeling a tomato. Now, Florence wasn't a cook, but they needed business in the kitchen. And it doesn't appear that anybody, was thinking about what business that should be. So it was left up to Florence to figure out what to do with the one vegetable she had in front of her. I mean, she's cooking for 9 people, for Christ's sake, and she's got like one tomato. But she's peeling a tomato. Now, if you got any kind of chops in a kitchen, it's impossible to peel a tomato. So what you do is you just blanch it quickly, and then the skin pops off, and it's still not cooked inside. So, and then it just peels. And she's always peeling sort of towards herself with the little knife, and then using the knife to gesticulate with, So
there is an irony here because, as you say, Florence did not do a lot of cooking in real life, yet she did have her very own cooking show. Now, this was back in the day, like in the late 70s, and it was out of Nashville, and this is before like Guy Fieri and like this the plethora of cooking shows that we have today. And Ambi Davis, who told me that she could barely boil water, wrote a cookbook, Alice's Kitchen.
Oh, there's a lesson here somewhere. And as Brady's, maybe someday we'll have to tell people what that lesson is. I'm not sure what that is, but you don't have to be a professed genius in anything you write about.
Another thing that Florence Henderson was doing just a little bit later when she was giving some advice to Marcia in the living room for business, she was doing needlepoint. Do you remember needlepoint?
Yes, I do, because, we all kind of got into it.
It did. It swept the nation. It swept the nation. And boy, we have huge gaps, right, in our filming days while they're lighting and prepping or scenes that we're not in and just sitting around. So I think Ann Davis had brought that in first, and then Florence picked it up, and then we all picked it up. I wanted something a little bit more macho than needlepoint, so I did hook rugs.
There was embroidery, there was needlepoint, and there was hooking.
Yes, I was hooking, even as a teenager.
You were hooking.
Tired of long waits and rushed care at the ER and urgent care clinic? Next time, stay home and let Dispatch Health bring the power of the hospital to you.
I call Dispatch Health. A care team of medical professionals actually come to your house.
They're the same caliber of people that you would see if you were at a hospital or an urgent care.
Dispatch Health can treat most non-life-threatening emergencies.
They can do the x-rays, they can do stitches.
Urinary tract infections, blood test, urinalysis, ultrasound.
It's almost everything that they can do at the ER.
You never feel rushed. They're there for you and only you.
I felt like their only patient.
And it costs no more than a trip to urgent care because Dispatch Health is covered by most insurance, including Medicare. See if we serve your home at dispatchhealth.com.
Dispatch Health really went above and beyond.
It's wonderful to have care come to your home.
House calls are back, and they're better than ever. Learn more at dispatchhealth.com.
At Firehouse Subs, a portion of every purchase helps provide life-saving equipment to first responders. We make our subs differently because our subs can make a difference every day. That's why we're bringing back our daily medium sub special. Enjoy a different handcrafted medium sub at a special price for every day of the week. From Meatball Monday to Italian Sunday. Get it for a limited time, only at Firehouse Subs. Tap the banner now to start your pickup order.
Now, here's another little thing that was kind of a continuity error. When Marcia came up to me doing the bicycle, and I said, well, just say something suddenly came up. She never mentions who it was, why she was going to use it, who it was about. But later on, she comes upstairs into the boys' bedroom to ask me more advice. And suddenly I know that it's Doug Simpson.
That she's going out with Doug Simpson. I thought that was a leap.
I don't know how that happens.
And I think if we had the original script, it might have been one of those moments in the script where it was mentioned. In an earlier scene, they rewrote something came out, or something in editing came out, and there you go. Now all of a sudden there's a leap. But yeah,
great.
I thought that was interesting.
I like thinking that it was an editing problem and not something that we as actors missed.
Well, it could have been that they shortened one of the scenes and that line got cut out earlier. Maybe she did say it was Doug Simpson. I don't know.
Hey, did you find it interesting or unusual at all that Marcia even had this dilemma in the first place? Double dates, going, more than multiple partners.
That she would be dating Charley? Or is that what you're getting at? Or
well, Charley and Doug, and who knows who else she was dating. I mean, she had kind of a secret life going on there for a while, I think.
You're conflating Maureen and Marcia.
I'm pretty, okay.
So,
well, could be.
But it did look like she was dating somebody very close to her on the set, judging from the relationship that I was witnessing between the two of you during this show. Yes, you two were looking a little bit close, a little bit less like brother and sister and more like,
Chris,
you were looking at her at times the way the directions in the script probably told Charley to look at Marcia.
You mean dreamy eye?
That longing kind of wide-eyed, her. Yeah, that was you.
Dreamy.
And she was looking dreamy. Yeah, you guys, you were going through a good week, I would say.
It was sort of like on again, off again with Maureen and I throughout the years. There was always a little dance being played that was broken up by hiatus.
Yeah, well, this was, let's see, we probably did this. This was aired in February, but we had to do it by November. So I don't know if we did. Do you recall if this is one of the shows that we did in the summertime, or was it filmed? This would have been sometime after the heat of the Hawaiian episodes.
Well, when she was pretending to be affectionate with other guys and going out on dates and stuff, I like to just stay out of the way and let her do her job and focus on and concentrate until an episode that, called for us to be sitting next to one another.
So at this moment, when you had great interest for the real person, Maureen McCormick, and she had scenes with Nicholas Hammond, were you there watching to make sure that she didn't show any enduring affection? At
all times, always. If she had a scene going on with Nicholas, then I was.
You were there to defend your turf?
No, just to basically have a presence. Just have a presence.
To have that magnetic sign of weight on the sidelines.
But even though we got sidetracked into my crush on Marcia, which I had not expected, by the way, but I was thinking about the idea that she was, she'd date Charley or she would date Doug and she'd break a date, and that going on.
Hey, this is a sitcom, which in our case, a lot of times goes vaudeville real quick at moments. So the fact is, in real life, she would have probably said, I'm not available on Friday, or was it Saturday? It was Saturday, because he's got to be playing football on Friday. Can we do this at another time? But there was a lesson having to be learned, and this was an episode crafted to teach that lesson, which we'll come to eventually. And thus, she had to, break this date.
It was a date with Marcia Brady, and you should have read some of her fan mail. I mean, guys would have killed to have just one date with Marcia.
Were you reading her fan mail?
Yes, you bet. Well, when she threw in the trash, it was fair game. I wanted to know what the competition was.
Defending your turf. Okay.
You bet.
Did you let her read your fan mail?
No, of course not.
She suspected what was in your fan mail.
Actually, I didn't read all of mine either. I just kept the pictures. So how is it we get out into the backyard? Well, how does this even happen?
Well, we're in the backyard. I mean, I thought, I'm looking back at this, I hardly had anything to do in this episode, but I had one very important thing to do, and that's make sure to hit her in the nose with a football. So Bobby and I are playing football in the backyard.
Had we seen Joe Namath by this point?
Joe Namath was in an earlier episode, if I'm not mistaken. He was in the third season. So yes, he would have been already on an earlier episode.
So that's a little carryover for Bobby, the football thing going on, keeping it alive. And you're playing Joe Namath in this. You're throwing the balls.
Yes. And so I guess John Brody or Frank Tarkington, because it got to be a left-handed quarterback for me to play since I'm left-handed.
You are impossible, really. Truly.
Anyway, I was so disappointed when watching this episode, and I recalled it again watching it because when you look at it, it looks like I don't know how to throw the ball because, I mean, this is Jack again, keeping the Bobby character in the foreground of the shot. He doesn't run out of the shot. He's in the foreground of the shot, and then I throw the ball nowhere near him and out of the shot.
It looked like you were throwing for the roof of the house.
Nowhere near him. It's like... I mean, and no problem with the earlier pass that he catches in the front end of the scene, but this later pass,
which you probably could have tossed to him underhand. It was, and this is about as far away as he was on the next one, except you're throwing it like a Hail Mary.
This was thrown sort of like Mahomes throws today when he's looking in one direction and throws in the other purposely. It was almost, that's how I can justify it, that Peter really had intended to throw this ball right at Marcia's face because that's the only way you can justify how he threw the ball.
Well, and also it just shows us how much Marcia does not know about football because one of the first things you learn is to not try and catch the ball with your nose.
She had some slow reaction.
Yeah.
Although, if I recall correctly, and this is where now I don't my dreaming is, they had a hard time getting the ball on her nose. Doing the shot, right?
They did.
They didn't make an extreme close-up, which would have made getting the ball in the nose easier. Right. But she kept flinching, which I don't blame her. And it was a nerfish type of football that they used on the shot that hit her in the nose.
Oh, wait.
They didn't have Nerf footballs at the time. What they had is a denser foam that they carved into a football. It wasn't a real football. It wasn't like a leather football. Is that right? It wasn't the football that I was using earlier. No, the ball that hit her in the nose.
I thought it was a real football. Oh boy.
Well, that could have hurt and caused damage, especially knowing you had to do it numerous times. And I recall she kept flinching, and they wanted her not to flinch. Her reactions were, well, instinctual. You just swat it away, and she would flinch and move her head or move her face out of the way of the ball.
Okay, so this is the way I remember that, because I came out to see how we were going to do this, and I was standing near the camera, but behind it, and we had our property, one of the Sunshine Boys, Irving was there, and he was camera left, and he underhand tossed the ball onto her nose. I mean, it really hit her, and she actually doesn't flinch that much, because I looked at it pretty carefully. She was really good. It looks really authentic. They had the sound effect, and that's how I recall that it was done, and I think they did it only twice.
So my recollection could have been dreamed up, but this was my recollection that Irving kept missing her. I don't remember him throwing it upside down. I don't know how, or underhand. I don't know how you could throw it underhand and have the arc be in the right direction. It would sort of be coming up from under camera, but maybe they had him on a ladder throwing it underhand. Again, I don't remember any of that. I remember just that he couldn't hit her nose. And then I said, I can do it. And they gave me the ball, and I did it.
I like your version better.
And I don't know if I'm just dreaming that up or if it actually happened.
Listen, if you are, I'm in your dream.
Oh, I just,
I like that. Congratulations. Yeah. You not only did you hit her with you literally threw the ball in her nose. That's so good.
And I guess Maureen might remember. I need to ask Maureen.
Yeah.
And find out.
I'm sure she'll remember.
Anyway, let's go on to the vaudeville parts of the show, because in every episode there are those moments that just stand out. It's
like Marcia's joke. Nose.
Let's do a vaudeville joke bit, and it sounds much better or reads much better than it plays ultimately. And that is the subplot. What is the subplot of this show? Oh. Well, mom and dad are re-wallpapering the bedroom. They're redesigning the master bedroom, which ultimately never takes hold, because in all other episodes after this one, it looks like it did prior to them doing any remodeling. Given we weren't a serial, so the episodes didn't have to track like that, there were some things that we were asked to do that made no sense. And there was one that they asked you to do. Now, I wasn't there for this particular moment or have no recollection of it, but at one point, Bobby and Cindy are painting on the wall and they're doing tic-tac-toe and they're told not to, right? You know,
No kidding.
Take this seriously. And that was one of the first times I've seen, Mike, Dad, actually scold the kids and kick them out. Really, it wasn't a lesson. He just had no patience for them. Get out. And then there's Greg, supposed to be the older brother with the sense and all. And they asked you to do something to make a joke work. And I'm just wondering, and what that was you were painting the wall horizontally up to a door jam, over the door jam, and then when the door is shut, of course, the joke is that Alice opens the door and there's her face, and instead of getting the door with the brush, you get her nose. But no one paints like this.
Nobody paints like that.
So what was your argument? Did you even care? Did you put up a fight?
I did, and we talked about it, and that's one of the times that I gave in to pressure. Because everything has to be done yesterday. And I was like, but wait a minute. Like you just said, I'm painting horizontally. I'm painting the wall. And then I'm going over the threshold onto the door, theoretically. How does this make sense? So we talked about doing it vertically, and that which would have made a lot of sense, but we couldn't work out her face and the paint. And if we'd gone up, she was concerned about her nose, and they were concerned about how it would look, and they wanted to be very Three Stooges. And this is what it looked like. Slapstick. And it just, here I come across the wall, over the threshold, door opens just in time, slap, slap, and I hit Alice in the face, the mouth, the cheek. Wah, wah, wah.
And we get that Brady moment.
Off to the next thing.
It's like there's two of those in every episode that just wakes you up if you were falling asleep.
Well, here's one. I don't know if you noticed this, but Eve, as we know, has become quite an accomplished artist and has some great drawings, and even put in some of her original works into the HGTV renovation. Mm-hmm. But in this episode, she has no clue how to hold a paintbrush at all. She's holding it like, fisted, and there's no finesse, and she's just kind of like shoving the brushes down on the wall.
House painting is slightly different than being an artist and working with an artist's brush. But she might not have ever painted a house at that point. Probably not. She was only 15 years old. But how much of that is her and how much of that was direction? Who knows? But I'm thinking, it might have been excusable if that action was done by Cindy, right? A younger person who's just not really paying attention. And they could have made up for her not being the tic-tac-toe by being Peter doing the tic-tac-toe. And if I'm not mistaken, I don't even think I was in the scene, and I don't know why that was.
You weren't, because you're in school.
But I was the only one in school.
Yeah, of course.
No, Marcia wasn't there. Marcia and Peter weren't there.
Yeah. Hey, wait a minute. What were you doing?
I think I was Charley's friend. I guess I was working on whatever they were going to do.
Okay, so we're up there painting. The subplot to this is just so incidental. It's it's just really a time filler. What we need to know is what happens with Marcia, and you talk about these moments that are really played up and up and up. Can you imagine the reveal of her nose after the football has theoretically swollen it up? Was, well, let's just say a bit over the top.
That was a broken nose. That is a broken nose. Clearly, with that kind of swelling, that she looked like it was 4 times wider than it had started.
It looked like they took an entire box of Play-Doh and put it over her nose. It was like there was no face left; it was just nose.
Carl Malden-esque.
There you go.
It was a ruined nose.
There you go.
Yes, it was overplayed, which is fine. I guess you could break a nose with a football if you got hit being by the point of it, especially because it wasn't a short throw. It was a long throw. If you looked at the shot, probably wouldn't break a nose. But let's just say that it did that damage. Then it wouldn't heal overnight like it does later in the episode. So they have it both ways. They have a huge nose to make her unattractive,
and self-conscious,
and then she gets healed just in time.
Before we get there, all right. So she's a little bit self-conscious. She's back in school, and who should come walking around the corner but Doug Simpson. Doug Simpson.
Boy, is he a shallow dude, though.
Fortunately, there was a water fountain nearby, so Marcia, quick thinking, very quickly went for a drink of water at the water fountain and
hides her nose.
To hide her nose, and Doug starts talking to her, but she has to turn around and show us this monstrosity that is covering her face. Now, Doug Simpson, being the cool cat that he is, quickly comes up with a plan and an excuse.
Right, and apparently he was talking to Greg. He learned the same line from Greg. or everybody's using it. He says
something suddenly came up. This was
And he can't
code.
make their date.
This was male code. All the cool people at school, Fillmore High, they all knew. They all knew what this was. Yeah.
Yes, but she kind of knows now, doesn't she?
She certainly does because she's got
you
Greg.
gave away the code.
Yeah, well, she's my sister.
So now she's feeling a little bit hurt.
Just a bit. And now she's thinking that rugged and handsome, the heck with that. He's now superficial.
The character never gets mad at Doug,
No, she's disappointed.
She's disappointed that he broke the date. Didn't sound like prior that she really wanted to go on the date with the broken nose. I don't know how this would work
vanity.
out.
That's
you
vanity.
got a number of different instincts here. First, you break your nose. Now you look ugly. Don't want to go on the first date. Can we postpone this? Would be one of the ways you would approach that. The other would be, well, okay, I broke my nose, but I really want to go on this date. It's only my nose. I'm game if they're game, and why wouldn't they still be game? That revealing his superficiality. I don't know what the third would be. The third would be that she feels just terribly guilty now because the guilt is overwhelming about canceling the date with Charley. And maybe Charley's more apt to appreciate her new Carl Malden-esque nose.
That's right.
And which approach does she take?
Well, she has no choice now at this point, right? She's not going to go out with Doug. So she goes
Right,
back
she doesn't. She doesn't go out with Doug. She
goes back to Charley, doesn't she?
Doug cancels the date.
Right.
And we assume we know why. He immediately upon looking at her and her nose chooses to cut off the date and using something suddenly came up. And now she's free. She runs into Charley again. She's now free. He sees her nose. He doesn't react, or he's not appalled by it.
He's concerned. He wants to know she's okay and what happened. But no, it certainly doesn't bother him, and that's fine. And he likes all of her, not just her nose.
He wants all of her, not her nose, not just her nose. But he is a little thrown because he ties his shoelaces to the bench. We've all done this, right? I mean, you must have some really long shoelaces.
Really long shoelaces, yes. He's a little nervous.
There's another one of those vaudeville moments.
Right.
But what's interesting is Marcia doesn't find that pratfall at all unappealing.
No, it's endearing.
Endearing. Exactly the way a Marcia-like captain of everyone's heart in high school would have acted, and then of course they can make the date now because Doug is canceled. And so Charley is excited, happy. Then what happens?
So as we come to a resolution to all of this, Marcia does go out with Charley on a date to the malt shop. And then later they go to the Pizza Hut. And who shows up?
It's got to be Doug.
Doug Simpson shows up. And guess what he does? Jerk that he is, he starts making fun of our Marcia. He makes fun of our Marcia and her broken nose. And so guess who defends Marcia? I wasn't there.
Charley.
Charley defends Marcia, and they get into a fight, and his nose gets really, really swollen. And then Carol says, oh, poor Charley. And Marcia says, not Charley's nose, it was Doug's nose. And Charley broke Doug Simpson's nose, and Doug was so embarrassed he ran all the way home.
Isn't that similar to another episode?
Which one are you thinking about?
That's exactly what happened with between Peter and Buddy Hinton. Finally, when Peter throws the left hook,
brought out the tooth,
knocks his tooth out,
and he has a lisp. And now Doug Simpson has a broken nose. But I think this was inspiring for John Lennon. I really do. I think he maybe caught this episode.
And how
he wrote a song about it.
He did.
Instant karma's going to get you.
Is that the lesson of this story?
I think it is. Karma comes around.
Yeah, I guess the moral is karmic. What goes around comes around. But a friend of mine, he was a business associate. He used to use the saying all the time. Now he used to preface it by saying, "I'm too little to lie," because he was a smaller gentleman. But he said, "My pillow is my conscience." And there is a line used by Mike earlier in this episode, which is interesting because when Marcia is feeling kind of hurt by Doug canceling on her because of her nose. And earlier she's uncomfortable because she has this nose. She's embarrassed by it. And Mike suggests to Marcia that her problem is not a swollen nose, but a bruised conscience.
Conscience, yes.
Right.
A bruised conscience.
That she is already feeling guilty. There, that somehow her conscience is already with her. And so you're right. Yeah. It's either keep your conscience clean.
Well, as Marcia did when she apologized to Charley and came clean about breaking the date originally to go out with Doug Simpson, and she felt badly about it, and Charley forgave her.
All is right in the Brady world after 30 minutes.
I think you are exactly right. This was fun. This is fun. It's interesting how we remember things differently, and I'm glad to know that it was actually you that threw the football.
Well, we don't know that, but I know
we're going to
my
hold on
dream
to that.
is probably a better reality if it didn't really happen.
It is better, and we're just going to go with that for now because you know what? We were there, and if we don't know, who the heck does? Maureen. All right, we could ask her. Okay,
when I do eventually get around to that, I will update you on this show as to what her recollection was. But I'll probably still stay with my dream.
Well, I think we've covered the subject is noses, and we're going to take a deep dive into another episode for our next podcast. We never know what it's going to be. We'll just get together and whatever strikes our fancy and we think would be of interest.
We'll play Yahtzee. We'll throw some dice and figure out what year the show will be from.
Sounds good to me. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening. I'm Barry Williams.
And I'm Christopher Knight.
And we are
the Real Brady Bros.
Tired of long waits and rushed care at the ER and urgent care clinic? Next time, stay home and let Dispatch Health bring the power of the hospital to you.
I call Dispatch Health. A care team of medical professionals actually come to your house.
They're the same caliber of people that you would see if you were at a hospital or an urgent care.
Dispatch Health can treat most non-life-threatening emergencies.
They can do the x-rays, they can do stitches,
urinary tract infections, blood test, urinalysis, ultrasound.
It's almost everything that they can do at the ER.
You never feel rushed. They're there for you and only you.
I felt like their only patient.
And it costs no more than a trip to urgent care because Dispatch Health is covered by most insurance, including Medicare. See if we serve your home at dispatchhealth.com.
Dispatch Health really went above and beyond.
It's wonderful to have care come to your home.
House calls are back, and they're better than ever. Learn more at dispatchhealth.com.
With Kroger Free Pickup, the savings are always with you. So you get the same great deals as in-store right in the app. Add your family's favorites to your cart while at the zoo, the science fair, or wherever. No matter where you order Kroger Pickup from, you can stay on budget while easily stocking up on everything you need. So start your cart and save from wherever today. Kroger, fresh for everyone. $35 order minimum. Restrictions may apply, subject to availability.